the things that you just do unconsciously. So much of our life is lived by habit and routine and mindlessly. You know, we get up on the same side of the bed. We pretty much do the same things. We drive to work the same way. And we don't necessarily consciously think about all of these things. And so even when you tie your shoe, you don't think, okay, let me wrap one thing over the next, or let me wrap this string under. No, because it now has become habit. Well, so much of our life is like that. So much of our life is lived through these routines. And if we don't get to a place of like becoming self-aware, then how will we ever become new? How will we change? And the good thing, one thing I love about God is gonna make you self-aware. God is gonna show you things about yourself, highlight, if you got a real relationship, highlight things about yourself that he wants to refine, things he wants to change to make your life better. And so one of the key aspects about becoming a new person, shifting into a new person, is shifting your mind. And so I talk so much about the mind because I believe so much of everything that we do starts there, right? Like there's there's almost nothing that you do that doesn't come from your mind first, unless it's just like a knee jerk, you know what I'm saying? But it's still somehow or another, it came from your mind. And so we have to, in order to become a new person, we have to have a new mind. And so we have to think about like that the mental habits that we have. The mental habits that we have are things that we tend to not even be aware of. And this is why I talk about the self-awareness and why it's so important, is because if we're not aware of how our mind just tends to just roam and to wander, we will not even realize that our mind has stayed the same. Like the thing is, as we grow, our bodies, we obviously we transform and we change. Our bodies change, right? But our minds can stay the same if we're not doing any type of mental exercises or mentally challenging ourselves. And this is why so much I talk about reading and getting new information. Because when you get new information, it's going to help to bring you into a new place, and so you can get information. When you get information, you'll change your positioning. You'll get information based off the revelation that you've had. And so our minds have to become made new. And so the Bible speaks so much about being transformed in the renewing of your mind, that's how we change. If we're going to become a new person, the first thing we need to work on is our minds. The first thing we need to work on is our minds. And so I have like over the past maybe 6 or 7 years, I recognized that I didn't understand how to do it. And so I had to really slow down and start working on, okay, let me just sit here for a minute and let me just watch how my mind just wants to roam and where it goes. And when I started realizing, like, my mind will go on trips, a whole bunch of trips that I don't even necessarily want it to go on. And the big thing about our mind is that when we understand that our mind is the root of our mood, whatever's happening in our mind is affecting our mood. Our thoughts produce chemicals, right? So when we have a thought, that thought, whether it's good or it's bad, is going to emit chemicals through our body. So if we have, like, say, for instance, we get scared, right? Something happens, like we see something, that thought triggers a threat. In that threat, it triggers chemicals to go off in our body, which, we become scared. What we don't understand is that, like, everything starts from that mind, and then we get into this emotion. And so when it comes to us really managing our mind, which is, the second thing is managing our mood, managing our emotions. We have to become new people through becoming more in control of our emotions and not allowing ourselves to be triggered by things that happen to us, right? And so, give me 1 second. I need to get you some water. Hold on. Are we still on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so the things that trigger us are very much mentally And emotionally, hold on, my team is like moving around. They throw. Go ahead. Are you about to go out the room? No, go ahead. Huh? No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead. Yeah, when they be moving all around my mind, I just be like, that's why I need to go live from home. So our moods, our emotions, right? And so I remember deciding to go to therapy because emotionally I realized that I was being triggered and I didn't necessarily know how to manage my emotions. And I talked last week about a lot when I went live, and I was talking about how um, like relationships that I had and relationships even with my mother and how I would find myself, dang man. Hold on, y'all. They got to change something on the camera. Hold on one second. All right, we good? All right. All right. So I was having some things happening with my relationship with my mother, and I realized like when I was around her and certain things would happen that I was getting triggered. And it really bothered me. And I felt like, the Lord was really impressing upon me that I needed to work on my own emotions. I needed to work on the things that were triggering me concerning that relationship. And so when I didn't, hold on, I don't know why I'm so distracted today. Hold on, y'all. Are y'all with me? I'm telling you. All right. We're going to try to get this back. Y'all with me? Thank you. So, in order to become a new person, we have to change our mind. Our minds have to become new. We also have to change our mood. And so, I realized that I was always irritable. I was always triggered. And I didn't even like being that person. But because at the time I wasn't self aware, those triggers became a part of who I was being as a person. I was always irritable. And the thing is, when you are always irritable or things are always triggering you, you don't recognize like the things that you're missing out on or the things that, God may even have for you. But because you're not in a receptive place or you're not necessarily in a place where you're even grateful or happy, you miss out on opportunities. And so, with my mom, I ended up going to therapy. And in therapy, it was so funny because these were things that I was so unaware of, but I was talking to my therapist one day because I think one day I was like late. And, in like therapy, like, okay, being a hairstylist, when you book a certain amount of time, regardless, you're going to get your hair done. So if the stylist is late, you're going to get your hair done. But when I booked an appointment with this therapist, I was late. And when I got there, I was probably about 10 minutes late. And then when I got there, I was sitting down and I was wondering why is he not coming out here to talk to me? And so maybe about 6 or 7 minutes later, he came out, but I had a straight attitude because I paid for a certain amount of time and I know I only got like an hour of his time. So now we're 20 minutes into this appointment and I have to pay $125, for this session. And so when we walked into the session, like I had a straight attitude. And this is the first time I really became self-aware of mentally what I was thinking. I felt like I wasn't being appreciated. And I also felt like I know I'm not going to get this time back because his time slots are already scheduled. Somebody's coming in at, X amount of time. And so I went into the session and this is where he started to help me understand that, because I was angry. Okay. And I'm like, if I'm gonna be late, that's one thing. I'm paying for this appointment. But for you to be late, knowing I gotta pay you, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not fair. I feel like I need to get an extra 10 minutes on my appointment. So anyway, this is where things really started to unravel in my journey and my understanding and my self-awareness of my emotions because I actually was triggered right there in the office of my therapist. And so we began to walk through, understanding that most of the times we tend to go to anger when things frustrate us, when really I felt underappreciated. I felt like my time was not necessarily being valued because I have to pay for this appointment. You know what I mean? But I go straight to anger. And so he helped me to unpack those things right in the middle of my emotion. And so in order for us to become new, we have to become aware of like why we're emotionally being triggered and why things are necessarily like, just managing us or controlling us. And I think that a lot of times we're getting more open to therapy and more open to finding out what's going on within us. But the thing is, when our moods are controlled, this controls our moves. Our moves are going to be controlled by our mind, and furthermore, our mood. And so, there are a lot of people who want to, step out and do the things that God has purposed them to do or called them to do. But the reason why they can't do it is because, number one, they're defeated in their mind. And when you have defeated thoughts, you have defeated emotions. When you have defeated emotions, you are immobilized. You can't move. And so you can have these ideas and you can have these thoughts and you can have these ambitions, but if you don't first deal with your mind and start thinking about, okay, what is the root of my inaction? What is the root of my immobilization? Why can't I move forward? It's because your old you or the current you is still in that same old mindset and that same old mood, and therefore you can't move. And so we're thinking about like what it means to become new. And so obviously, God, he renews our spirit, but we have to work on our mind, our soul, our mind, our will, and our emotions. Like that is an active participant when it comes to us changing. And so when we think about like the vision, I talked a few weeks ago about, the vision that God has for you, it is associated with a new version of you. How do I begin to become this new version? And this new version has to do with habits. And so when we think about the moves that we're making, the moves are associated with our habits. What do we habitually do? What are the things that we either act on or that we react to on a daily basis? What do we act on? What are the risks that we're taking? And how are we reacting to situations that hit us? I remember yesterday I had got some information, and I literally, from that information, my mind started thinking like negative immediately. And I didn't think about, me accepting these thoughts. But what brought me to the realization that I had accepted these thoughts was how I was feeling. My mood had shifted completely, right? And so I was so tight about it to the point where I was driving and my mother was in the car with me, and I was just like, I got to snap out of this mood. You know what I mean? Here it is. My mom, she's going through chemotherapy. She's going through treatment, and she got a good attitude. You know what I'm saying? Like she's in a good space, even though she doesn't feel well. Invisibly, she doesn't feel well. And here it is. I'm allowing something that probably isn't even what I thought, what I am taking it to be. And so I need to shift my mood. And so I had to like go into this place of gratefulness. Number one, when we start accepting thoughts that are not true, thoughts that do not serve us, these thoughts can now affect everything around us. And then we find ourselves not even being necessarily grateful for the things that are going right. And so I had a million amazing things happen yesterday, right? But this one little piece of information caused me to be in a negative space, temporarily. And I was just like, I have to kill that. Because why? Because I've already been used to allowing that to take control over me for hours, for days sometimes, right? And we don't have that time to essentially waste. And so if we're going to become a new person, the person that people have known me to be, I almost need to show up brand new to where it's like, I'm almost unrecognizable. Like, girl, these are things that used to get on your nerves. Like, oh yeah, not so much anymore. Why? Because we understand that all things work together for the good. All things work together for the good. And so, there was a saying that I used to have in the salon, and we still have it in the salon, that it always works out. And so if we can keep this thought and understanding and truth in our heart and in our mind that it always works out. All things work together for the good. So even when things don't necessarily go your way, you never know that even though it may not be going your way in this space of time, we don't know how it's setting us up, and we don't know how things will eventually turn into something else. So be grateful in the meantime. Be grateful in the season of it. And so if we're going to become new, we got to become new in our mind. We have to become new in our emotional management and our emotions. We have to become new in our habits. And so somebody had asked me, how do I begin to change my old habits and turn them into new, like more beneficial, newer habits? And I think the first thing is to recognize that whatever this newer habit is going to be for me, it's going to benefit me. It's going to bring me, it's going to turn me into a person that I've always wanted to be. And so, new habits are always discipline. New habits are something that we actually have to do it mad, do it even when we don't feel like doing it. Why? Because it's always going to benefit us. And so I just use this example where I was talking about how I've just started to work out again, because last year I had fibroid surgery, right? And after my fibroid surgery, I had a habit of working out, and I stopped going to the gym. And, obviously that recovery was like 8 weeks. And then after that, I was like, I just didn't go back, not that I made an excuse, but I just didn't go back. And so it's just been a challenge to get back to actually starting being more active. But I always feel much better when I work out, right? And so just recently, I got some dumbbells at home, and I was like, you know what? I'm about to just start doing these squats. And then from doing the squats, and I would only do a little bit. Like, I'm not doing as much as I would like really force myself to do if I was really, really working out. But because I'm trying to build a muscle, because I'm trying to build a habit that I'm going to continue to do, I'm just baby stepping my way into this. I ain't gonna just go hard and try to be like, you know what, I'm about to do 50 push-ups real quick. I'm about to do 200 squats today. No. We ain't gonna do that. I started with I think 25 squats, no weights. Why? Because I said, let me just get into the routine of doing it. And as I get into the routine and I start feeling better, then I'm gonna add more. And so it's been like a month and some change, and I just started doing my curls. I started working on my arms. And so I'm building this new habit day by day. It's like the compound interest of becoming a new person. And so while I'm transforming my physical body, it's also transforming my mental body, because I'm telling myself, number one, that it's going to benefit me. And then that I also feel accomplished when I do it. And so when we're becoming a new person, what we have to do or learn how to do is to reward ourselves for the discipline. Reward yourself. Whatever it is that you feel like, okay, you know what, I wouldn't normally splurge on myself in this way, not necessarily financially, but something that you enjoy doing, start to give yourself a little bit more grace and start to celebrate yourself in those areas. And that's going to further help you to continue into this pattern, into this routine. What's up for everybody that's joining? So I'm going to be taking questions. So tonight we were talking about 3 keys into a new you. And the first thing is you have to become self-aware. You have to understand who you're being. You know what's a good thing you can do? You can ask people, what is your experience of me? People that you know love you, people that you know care for you, people that you know will give you the truth. Just ask them, what is your experience of me? And allow them to just honestly just share whatever their experience is. And it's funny because when we don't ask these questions, we don't necessarily get these answers. But as we be able to get these answers back, it's like, dang, okay, well, that's a good thing to think about. When I coach hairstylists and I'm talking to them about, their business and improving their business, I'm like, ask your clients, to give you some feedback. Because the client experience is different from the service that you're providing. And sometimes you have blind spots. But as people begin to give you a concise essentially feedback of who you are being. I remember what really bothered me about 6 or 7 years ago. I used to have, well, maybe like 8 or 9. I used to have people come up to me and be like, I know you, but I don't feel like I know you. And I was just like, I didn't even know what that meant. Like, what do you mean you know me, but you don't know me? You know what I mean? And so I didn't realize how guarded I was. I didn't realize how, um, I think it's good to be private, don't get me wrong, but there's a part that you just kind of cross over to where it's just like you don't allow people to know you at all. They can't even reach you. Like they have an idea of you, but they don't know you from an emotional standpoint. I remember I used to go on trips and people be like, "How was your trip?" I'm like, "It was cool." Like I didn't even know how to be open in communication to be like, "Oh, so when I went on my trip, this happened and that happened." And so when you don't give people that place, there's no way that they can come to know you. And so as I continue to hear this over and over again, like I feel like I know you, but I don't know you. You're like a mystery. That used to bother me. And so I realized that, we grew up in a household where, there was a saying, it was like, the greatest business in the line of business is to have some business. And if you have no business, find some business and leave my business alone. If you have some business, fine. If you don't have no business, find some business and leave my business alone. And so that was something I remember from my childhood, and that became my life. It was like, listen, you don't know where I live. And I'm talking about people that was like semi close to me, but I was just so guarded, and I realized that wasn't benefiting me in life. And so in order for me to become this new person, what I had to realize is, number one, become self-aware of how guarded I was being, and then start working on things that would help me feel more comfortable to let those guards down, to let them down. What's up, Jose? What's up, Steph? So how do we become new? What are the keys and the steps to becoming a new person? We have to have a new mind, right? Be transformed in the renewing of your mind. And I talk about that all the time, about how to renew your mind. But the first thing is being aware of those mental habits, and then start training your mind. Start feeding your mind the proper things, the direction that you actually want to go, the areas in your life that you're struggling with. If you first give yourself the mental information, as you get the information, you will start to shift. You will start to become a new person, just because I remember when I wanted to change my eating habits. And so I just started to watch all these documentaries about how this food industry is not right. You know what I mean? And not that I had really like made a resolute, like I'm gonna be a vegetarian or I'm gonna be a pescatarian. I hadn't done any of that. I was like, I'm about to just start watching this. And as I got the information, as I got informed, I just naturally started making different choices in the food I ate, because like I know this information now. And so when you want to shift into a new you, getting the proper information is going to make you shift. It's going to make you shift. And then we're going to change our moves. So our mind, our mood, our moves, and it dictates what happens in our life. It dictates what manifests in our lives. So I'm going to take some questions. If there are any questions for tonight, I know this was like a quick little live. I don't know, y'all. I don't even know what was going on. I was super distracted at the beginning of the live. I don't even know what was going on. So if y'all got some questions, feel free. If not, I don't know. If y'all was on the after party last week, we had a good time. So we might have we might have an after party. I might go live later on tonight. But if there are any questions about becoming a new person, the stuff that you see for your life is only going to come. See, the thing is, what got you here is not going to get you there. That's a hard reality. That's a hard thing to swallow. But it's like, okay, well, what part of me do I need to change now in order to get closer to that version, to get closer to that vision? What part of me needs to change? What part of me needs to shift? What do I need to upgrade? Well, if we don't have no questions, I'm about to say good night. But I want to thank you. What's up, Otis? That's what they meant about me. You're welcome, Otis. You're welcome. All right, y'all. So I'm gonna get out of here tonight. Y'all have a blessed night, and I will be back next week. And oh yeah, really quick. So I am doing the authentically you, the authentically bold program for women who know what their purpose is, or they have an idea, they have a glimpse of what God has already shown them, and you want to walk alongside with a group of women that are going to hold you accountable so you can shift into this purpose. Somebody asked me last week, it's like, how did you know, or how did you know it was time for you to shift into your calling? And because it just kept coming, signs kept coming. But the thing is, if we're not in the right company, then we may not be able to fully successfully shift into that, because many times people who are not necessarily walking into their purpose, they can't support you. And so I want to take a group of women down this path of becoming authentically bold, because you're going to need boldness to do anything that God has called you to do. You're going to have to stand in front. You're going to have to use your voice. Your face has got to have to be seen. So how do you do that? How do you get past the fear of judgment? How do you get past the fear of being distracted on live and you can't even and you can't even say that really and truly because you're like, hey, I'm live, and. So, but how do you get past that? You learn to accept yourself. You learn to love yourself. I posted something earlier today, and in that post, I think I said something to the fact of, how are you going to stand in front of millions? How are you going to stand in front of millions if you can't even stand in front of the mirror? What does that mean? That means that many times, if we have yet to accept ourselves, if we have yet to come into a level of love, because there's levels of love. And in this area, you're going to have to love yourself so much so that even when people judge you, or even when people have something negative to say, that you are so solid in who you are that it doesn't bother you, that you're so bold, that you're so courageous, it doesn't bother you. And so this is the reason why I developed this program, because a lot of people ask me like, girl, you just look so natural on camera. And I'm just like, if you only knew. I was not her not that long ago. Like literally, I was not her. You know what I mean? And even when I go live from time to time, I just be like, listen, I ain't even trying to go live. You know what I'm saying? But as soon as that camera come on, I'm just like, let's go. So how do you get past that? How do I become authentic and bold? How do I become authentic and bold? Is it just for women? Hey, Candace, yes, it is just it is just for women for now. I feel like that's who I'm called to. How do I become authentic and bold? And so when we talk about the authenticity speaks to the realness, speaks to who you actually are. And so I talk often about how I find that people, they jump on bandwagons and they do things just to do things. And if we don't really exercise and understand that it's us, it's the true you that people are going to connect with. It's the silliness, it's the quirkiness, it's the rareness that they're going to connect with. But if you are so guarded and you're still blocking that, you don't realize that you're blocking the opportunity for connection. You're blocking the opportunity for connection. So this is the reason why we have to understand how to be authentically bold, right? Bold in actually who you are. It don't even take no effort to be yourself. It's actually I hate to say it's the easiest thing, because it's not necessarily the easiest thing, because we've been told to not be ourselves. But once you start releasing all the lies and releasing all the layers and the labels, you realize like, dang, I can breathe because all I got to do is be me. Thank you, Empress. Thank you, Empress. So anyway, if you're interested in that program, Authentically Bold, click the link in my bio to get more information. And I still haven't changed the date, but click the link in my bio. And then also you can shoot me a DM if that's something that you're interested in. And otherwise, I will see y'all next week. Y'all take care and have a blessed evening.